All right, let's jump right in with a question that technology is going to ask every single one of us. And it's not about your phone, it's not about the car you drive. It's about your final years. Will a robot be the one caring for you?
No, really, just take a second and picture it. Who do you see? Is it your family? Your partner? Maybe a kind nurse? Well, for millions and millions of us, that picture might look totally different than what we imagine. And that future, it's getting here a whole lot faster than you think.
And here is the reason why. By the year 2050, the number of people on Earth over the age of 80 is expected to triple. Just let that sink in. We're talking about 426 million people. That's an absolutely massive shift in our global population. And frankly, it creates a huge, huge challenge.
And that challenge, well, it has a name. Experts are calling it the coming care crisis. It's this quiet but incredibly serious problem that's already starting to unfold all over the world. So what it all boils down to is some simple, kind of scary math. We have this huge growing population of older adults, but the number of people who are able and willing to do the vital work of being a caregiver, it's just not keeping up, not even close. And this gap, this caregiver gap, is what's forcing us to look at some pretty radical new ideas.
Which brings us to probably the most talked about and maybe the most controversial solution of them all, the robot carer. So let's take a look at what this future of care might actually be like.
Okay, first things first, we need to get all those Hollywood images of super smart, human-like AI out of our heads. This isn't science fiction anymore. We're talking about actual, functional machines that are being developed in universities and tested in care homes as we speak. And they're a lot more practical and honestly, in some ways, a lot more surprising than you'd think.
So, what does a care robot actually do? Well, meet Stevie. It's a robot from Trinity College Dublin, and its day-to-day job might not be what you expect. It leads a game of bingo. It helps residents make video calls to their families. It gives reminders about appointments. It can even detect if someone has a fall or sense if they're feeling unwell. You see, it's not trying to be human, it's just trying to be helpful.
But here's where it gets complicated. Because being helpful isn't so simple. This technology presents a really deep dilemma, where these incredible potential benefits are sitting right alongside some very serious ethical questions.
And this chart lays out that conflict perfectly. On the one hand, the promise is massive, right? 24/7 monitoring means an older person can live on their own for longer, and if they fall, it's detected in seconds, not hours. But that same monitoring is also constant surveillance, so where do you draw the line on privacy? And sure, robots can handle the repetitive stuff, which frees up human staff, but can a robot provide real, genuine empathy? Is a programmed smile an okay substitute for a real one? And that leads to a really tough question. Are we okay with using tech to sort of deceive vulnerable people into feeling like they're being cared for?
Now, the creators of these robots have a very clear answer. This is a quote from Stevie's inventor, Professor Connor McGinn. He frames the whole thing not as a replacement, but as a tool. The goal isn't to get rid of human carers, it's to give them a robotic assistant so they can do their jobs even better.
But even if it's just a tool, we have to ask ourselves, what's the one thing that technology can't replicate? What is the absolute heart of what it means to care for someone? The research on this is really fascinating. Studies are showing that social robots can actually help reduce feelings of loneliness, so they do have a positive effect. But, and this is the big but, they are just not as effective as real, genuine human contact. They're a supplement, not a substitute.
And maybe it all just comes down to this one word: companionship, a feeling of fellowship or friendship, a warm, close connection between people. I mean, that's what we all crave, right? Especially as we get older. Can you really program that? Can circuits and sensors truly deliver that feeling?
So this dilemma, it doesn't have to be a dead end. In fact, it might be pointing us toward a much smarter, much more effective way of thinking about care in the future.
Because the most likely future isn't a choice we have to make. It's not going to be humans or robots. It's going to be humans and robots, working together like a team, where each one does what they do best.
So, what does that look like in practice? Well, step one, the robot handles what some call the dull, dirty, and dangerous tasks. All the heavy lifting, the cleaning, delivering meals. Then, step two, the robot acts as that 24/7 safety net, monitoring health, watching for falls, and alerting a human the second there's a problem. And here's the real payoff. In step three, the human care, who's now freed from all that other work, can focus on what really matters: meaningful conversations, emotional support, genuine companionship. In a way, the robot manages the body so the human can nurture the soul.
So in the end, we're left with this. The robots are coming. The need is just too great. So the real question isn't if we're going to use them, but how. How are we going to design them with wisdom and with heart? How do we take our most important human values, dignity, compassion, privacy, connection, and actually write them into the code of our future carers? That's the real challenge.